All the evidence is that the Patsies thought they were going home that night. And again, if this is any guide, it shows that I think some of the people involved here in the 7/7 in London, the guys who made the films, are people who think they're going to make 200 quid and then go home, and they think they're making a training video. They think they're making something that's a part of the drill that they're in. And this explains a lot of conduct which you can't explain otherwise. Okay, Amalgam Virgo. Amalgam Virgo, I think, is the Pentagon. Amalgam Virgo is firing a cruise missile from a barge or a ship in the Atlantic or in the Gulf of Mexico and hitting a land target. Of course, you can launch a cruise missile from the air, from the land, from the water, from underwater. You can do that too. I think that's what hit the Pentagon. Then we have National Reconnaissance Office, NRO. The scenario, planes crash into skyscrapers. Well, again, the principle of all this is, if the scenario of the drill that's going on at more or less the same time comes true, it means that the drill has been flipped live, taken live, the drill has become real with a small change, and that's how the effect was produced. New York City is running this REDX drill. See it there? REDX. That's a New York State one. New York City, sorry. Scenario of the drill, planes crash into buildings, buildings collapse. And again, I would always say that the planes were under the control of Global Hawk, the well-known U.S. Air Force remote control technology. And they did this down to a very, very minute level, which is this one here. The Department of Transportation cell phone exercise. You remember, in the first days and weeks, the main way in which the validity of this story was sold to common people, to the masses of the world, was through the cell phone. The heart-rending pathos of a doomed husband and a doomed wife talking to their spouse or their children, and I love you, I know I'm going to die, and all this. It would seem to me, given the many, many technical problems with doing this, we have Professor Dutney of Canada, who has written about this issue extensively, that these cell phones were cynically generated according to an apparatus that was set up and tested in this cell phone drill, which took place at the end of August of 2001, so a couple of weeks before the actual events. We have a drill here at Shanksville, Pennsylvania, mall strike, plane crashing into the ground. But of course you could say, well, such drills are going on everywhere. Okay, but here's the thing, this is where we have to say goodbye, William of Ockham. You can argue with every one of these. You could say, wait a minute, on that one there's something wrong, or you can't say that because this one has a certain departure. But I'm not asking you to look at the details anymore now. Look at that pattern. How can you have a pattern of 25 plus drills? And I could, if I wanted to inflate this, I could probably get it up to almost 35 if I really wanted to go for broke in the hyping of this stuff. How can you explain this pattern which is chronologically congruent with the event, or before or after? Again, there's always that. But when you have a drill, you create an apparatus which remains, or when you're about to do the drill, you also have the apparatus, so that would fall into place there. This pattern is the proof. Right? They told me in Italy, get ready, because people are going to say, you have proof? Yeah, I have proof. I have 25 plus drills that cover every aspect of the observed phenomenon. Every meme of the myth is located here. And this includes, by the way, the attack on Afghanistan is drilled in advance. We have one other drill. Computer experts are told to come to the World Trade Center that morning, I think, so that they're going to get killed. So they're going to be liquidated. In other words, some people who really knew too much are told to come to the attack site that morning, and that's the end of them. Again, the NRO. And now finally, the scariest one of all. You see this one here, Global Guardian? Global Guardian? That's thermonuclear warfare. That's an Armageddon drill. It means that B-52s, quite possibly loaded, B-1s, ballistic missiles, submarine-launched ballistic missiles are all ready to go. I met General Ivashov of the Russian forces. Ivashov was commanding in Moscow that day. Ivashov says, before any plane was hijacked, we saw a mobilization comparable to the Cuban Missile Crisis. Now, why would they do that? Well, let's see. The centerpiece of the day from a world strategic point of view is the Bush-Putin telephone call. And Putin calls to offer his support because he can see that the madmen have taken power, the neocon fascist madmen rule Washington, D.C., and he's got to do something about that. So he takes a flexible approach. Now, Bush says to him, guess what? We're taking Afghanistan, and we're going to seize bases in the 5 Soviet republics of Central Asia, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, some of the others. It's not clear which ones. Now, think of it. The Soviets fought for 10 years, and look at all they lost to keep Afghanistan neutral. Suppose I'm a sort of a Red Army bullet head, and Bush says to me, guess what, we're going to take Afghanistan. You know what I could say? Nyat! I'll blow your head off. Don't you dare. But Putin doesn't say that. He says, please, go ahead. Afghanistan is yours. Go there, you'll see what you find. We know what you'll find, and you'll find it too. The British found it, the Russians found it, now the U.S. is finding it. So he chooses a flexible response. He's also thinking, under neocon control, the U.S. will get weaker, they'll attack more countries, they'll become hated, isolated, internal dissent, weaken the armed forces, scatter themselves, divide their forces all over the world. Russia will get stronger, oil income, new missiles, research, recovery will be stronger, they'll be weaker. We'll take it. That's what he's thinking. So this is this honeymoon between Bush and Putin. And of course, I have to say, the British campaign against Putin has made the chickens laugh around the world, like what they've done about these recent cases have not convinced anybody. Now, in terms of the method, I do want to say a couple of words about 7th of July 2005 in London. It's the same thing. Everybody knows the Peter Power Visor Consultants, where he says, we were holding simulations of bombs in those stations more or less at more or less those times. And he says that in the BBC. But what we don't seem to know, even very well informed ones, is that there are 3 big drills going on at this time, or actually they have taken place about 2 to 3 months earlier. Tony Blair even mentions them in public. They are Atlantic Blue of the British, Top Off 3 of the US, and Triple Play of Canada. And the scenario of these is the same. It is bombs in the London Underground at the same time that you have an important international conference going on in the British Isles, which is the Glen Eagles G7. So there it is. Those drills were run, the structures were created, and I'm afraid the working hypothesis would have to be that the effects are generated through the apparatus thus prepared. The drills went live. This is the symbol of Amalgam Verdure. This is where it gets really heavy-handed. Look, it's June of 01. It's a couple of months before the fact. And they put Bin Laden's face on the handbook for the drill. How about this one? Here's one where they start. They start in Alaska. They cross Canadian airspace yet, and an airplane goes to crash into the Capitol. So I think they're trying to say that they want to crash an airplane into the Capitol, right? And again, watch out. Everybody participates. Don't get caught outside of the coup, or it won't go well for you. And of course, the big thing is the global guard. On this morning, we have bombers flying around, presumably loaded. This never came out. And we have missiles, and we have the entire thing. And the point of this is that they want to show this to Putin to say, we are prepared to go to the limit of nuclear war today. If you try to keep us out of Afghanistan and prevent us from executing this strategy of the war of civilization. And I think this is absolutely critical. And this is, again, where Putin has actually, by his flexibility in this case, he avoided a possible thermonuclear confrontation that he could just as easily say, look, your dog and pony show, this idiotic spectacle that you people have put on, your own goal, because that's what it is. So you score an own goal. What do you want from me? Take your own goal and leave Afghanistan. But he doesn't do that. He's flexible.